Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut, and this is Warhammer Chaosbane. So, what is Warhammer Chaosbane? Well, it is a ARPG. It is ARPG, but it's also an ARPG. An action RPG very much in the vein of Diablo, Grim Dawn, Torchlight, etc., etc. Path of Exile as well comes to mind, and it is set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. So, is it any good? Well, short answer, yes. Long answer, the rest of this video, I suppose. I'm going to talk about mainly one aspect of this game here, and that's the most important aspect, that being combat. The story I will leave for you to discover in either through, playing the game yourselves or through watching a Let's Play or whatever. I will leave that to your own devices. I will not talk about the story. But I will say that it does require you to have at least a basic understanding of Warhammer lore, and it basically doesn't require you to know a decent amount of stuff about Warhammer Fantasy if you're going to get into the story. A lot of very popular characters appear, and they appear, okay, the one problem I have with the story is characters seem to appear out of nowhere. It's like, all of a sudden, we were in the throne room in the middle of nowhere, and, well, the throne room is not in the middle of nowhere, but, from out of nowhere, Tessellus appears, and it's like, oh, hi, I'm here to save the day in the nick of time. And then, you'll be talking to someone, and then out of them, again, out of nowhere, here's another very popular character from Warhammer. That's sort of the one outlying issue that I have with the game. It's sort of, it doesn't really seem all that connected in how characters appear in certain places and instances, but the story's not the main part here. The main reason you're here is the combat and the looting. So, I'm going to talk about combat in a second because that's going to take a couple of hours to explain. Oh no, it's not, but it is going to take a while to get everything out of the way that I need to tell you about the combat, because there is quite a lot to say. But the basic gist of it is very much a Diablo clone / Torchlight clone / all the other games that I mentioned, and it pulls it off really well. Matter of fact, the Warhammer universe lends itself really well to this sort of style of combat. It's not exactly lore-breaking, and you do hear stories of something along the lines of what you're doing now from certain very special characters, but you do. What comes to mind is Grimgor Ironhide, and basically his entire adventure against the Skaven, where he alone planted his 2 gigantic green orc feet at the entrance of a Skaven tunnel and started cleaving away thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Skaven. So yeah, definitely not new and unusual what you're doing here. I'm playing as a Slayer's character. Yeah, great alliteration there. I'm playing as a Slayer, and you do get to pick between a few different classes and so on and so forth. However, what the hell am I? Oh, right, we need to return to Tessellus. This is the very beginning of the game, so they won't spoil the story much for you, but I will skip through the dialogue, so you don't have to know if you don't want to. At any rate, visually, the game looks great. However, where's my options menu? This is not an options menu. This is, I'm not sure what this is, but you can change the font, that's about it. Well, and the screen resolution. I suppose that's mighty generous of you, but yeah, I don't understand. There's all sorts of gameplay options for various things that you can display or not display, which is cool. I like that. All right, that's fine. It's good, but where's my graphics menu? Tusk. Alright. That aside, the game visually looks very, very good. A little bit shiny, for my taste. A little, like, everything seems to glow a little bit too bright at times, from, the magical lights to the fire to steel clashing and so on and so forth. It's a little bit, I don't know, flashy, I suppose, in the wrong sense, but it's pretty good. All right. The one sort of thing I have a problem with are the abilities. And I understand that this is Warhammer, and I understand that the fact that I have this shred ability does not mean I'm casting magical spells. It's just a move that I do, a fighting move, right? So it does fit that it's not necessarily all that flashy. However, gameplay and you know, ARPG ahead of lore or over lore, right? Especially if you're playing a dwarf like I am, you get lost in the, well, midst of the chaos, pun fully intended, of battle, right? And especially because everyone is taller than you and they all surround you, you sort of lose track of your character at times. It's very helpful to have flashy abilities, and it just makes them fun to cast, right? And if you want to take a look at relatively flashy abilities, look at, well, pretty much any of the games that I've described. I think they all have flashier abilities. And in certain cases, Grim Dawn was a little bit, shall we say, it toned down the flashiness of the moves and the combat. But even that was like, casting abilities there was like very cool as well, especially the later level ones. And I have a decent amount of experience with pretty much all the games that I mentioned, so I speak on some authority when it comes to that. So that's one sort of, graphically, the one sort of thing I don't want to say dispute, but you know what I mean. Like the one sort of thing that I would sort of change a little bit is make things a little bit flashier. Some of these are all right, like that is pretty damn flashy, but then. Yeah, this, which is a little bit overwhelming, and it's like one of the things that you cast most often, or that. It's like, it's a little bit too, I don't know, transparent, I suppose? Yeah, alright. But that's about it as far as everything non-combat related is concerned. The game's pretty damn decent, the story's okay, from what I've seen so far, though I do have a very limited experience of it. I've played an Empire character that got a little bit further down the line in the story, but yeah, it's alright. And the different classes do play very differently, as you'd expect. Now, there's not that many of them, so I suppose it's praise to an extent, but they do play pretty differently, so I respect that, and they play as pretty much the way you'd expect them to. A Slayer is pretty much just balls to the walls, get in there and just do damage and seek a glorious death. A Mage is, well, guess what, he casts spells, and so on and so forth, right? So, at any rate, what about the gameplay itself, the meat of the actual title, and why you're here and why we're all here, right? Well, I'm going to start off with the positives. It's clean, it's well done, it's responsive, I like it, right? It's easy to get into, it's along the lines of Diablo 3. It's actually, if you've played Diablo 3, you're going to feel right at home with this. It lacks the complexity of something like Grim Dawn, or something like, I guess the earlier Diablos 2, and those weren't particularly complicated games either. I guess Grim Dawn and Path of Exile are prime examples of a more complex ARPG. It lacks some of the complexity there, but it doesn't make it any less enjoyable. It's a little bit more streamlined, but that's fine. And judging from the, I guess, the response of most people, those games do really well, even if they're not that complex, right? Taking a look again at Diablo and Torchlight and stuff like that. So, pretty good. Next, and this is very important, combat is quick. Combat is lightning quick. I mean, I'm cleaving through tons of enemies here, and this is an early level, fair enough, but you know, you'd expect it maybe to take a little bit more time to cleave through a horde of beastmen what are these called? Alguls, right? Yeah, whatever. You'd expect it to take time to cleave through all this. No, it's pretty damn quick, and this is on like higher difficulty levels as well. It's not the hardest available at the start, but it's I'm playing on hard, I think. So yeah, and the lowest is very easy. So yeah, it's pretty quick. It's pretty fun, and I'm a fan of this. You know, I enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's great. The UI is fairly simple, but works. Again, it doesn't have a lot to show you because, you know, you don't have some of the features that you have. For example, I've played a lot of Grim Dawnland recently, so I'm going to compare it mostly to that, but you don't have a lot of the features that you have there, so there's not that much to show, but it works. Apart from one thing. You'll notice that there's sort of a common theme occurring throughout the video. They do a lot of things great, and then there's like a little bit of a nitpick. I'm not trying to nitpick on purpose, but these things I would love to see improved, and I think they do deter from the quality of the overall game. So I think that it's worth mentioning, and I do think you should bear these in mind. So what is that? Loot. First of all, you don't have that much loot in this game, which is not a bad thing necessarily. Often, these games are guilty of giving you too much loot, to the point of only the blue stuff matters, and the green stuff you just treat as junk, basically, right? You just sell it anyway, you never really use it. And this game is not guilty of giving you too much loot, definitely, and I approve. Then again, don't think that this game is going to give you, I don't know, 3 weapons per quest or whatever. Oh, no, there's tons. However, it is not ridiculous. I've definitely seen more. I do need to... Yeah, alt for the secondary, there you go. Alright. Cool. There we go, we can sell the rest, I reckon. Yeah, we can sell the rest. Alright, sorry about that. However, when the loot does drop, gold or whatever... See, a family pen is blue, so it's kind of easier to spot, but gold, chests, stuff like that, it's a little bit difficult to spot. Now, this is the kind of game where you go in, play some music in the background, and have some mindless fun, or at least that's how I play it. The damage numbers are great. The enemy HP is very easy to, you know, ascertain which enemy has how much HP based on just looking at things. You know, you need to get too much into it, and you can easily distinguish it in the chaos of the battles and all the numbers popping up, right? That's all fair and well. However, the way most games get around the clutter of all the stuff happening on the screen and the loot is they have a button for, you know, discerning one from the other. That button is usually Alt on a standard keyboard, on a standard US keyboard. What that does is it basically highlights the loot like so. However, this works partially in this game. A lot of times I've seen the same Alt key, and it is the Alt key here as well, highlight chests and stuff like that in the background as well. Now, you could argue that the reason they're not doing this is basically, you know, they want you to explore around yourself a little bit and whatnot, but this is not that kind of game, right? I mean, that's in the dark, and if I don't mouse over it, you can't really tell that there's barrels there, right? But there are. And you break them, and you pick up the gold from them. It's a tiny bit of gold, it's not that relevant, but again, sometimes you'll miss a chest or two or something along those lines, and it can be a little bit... It's a tiny nitpick, but it does deter a little bit from the game. I think Alt should highlight, like in most games, well, not most games, but in many games, like it does, containers and stuff like that, as that contain... Containers that contain stuff, yes. Stuff that contains loot for you to pick up. Alright. Now, on to a pretty important and, well, actually a lot more important part of the game, the combat itself, and one sort of problem I have with it. Oh, that's very cool. If you kill them there, they drop off the edge and die. That's very cool. Alright, that's a neat detail. Um, right. So this is a little bit difficult to explain unless you pick up the game and play it for yourself. Then you'll have a much better understanding of what I mean. But I'll give it my darndest. The game sticks you a little bit too much to the enemies. It makes you stick to the enemies, and it makes you stick when you attack and stuff like that a little bit too much for my taste, and I think that this is something they could have done better. Now, again, this is probably my biggest problem with the game, and probably my biggest downside of the combat, because I love pretty much everything else. I think the combat's great. It's quick, it's intuitive, love it, it's great, it's responsive, good, you know, everything is fine when it comes to that. However, think about, if you've played previous ARPGs, think of, again, Grim Dawn, Diablo, whatever, Path of Exile. You can dodge, especially in the more complicated games, you can dodge away from enemy attacks. This is difficult to pull off, and most of the times not worth it. However, when it comes to bosses, the game lets you do it really well. Also, what the hell is this camera? Seriously. Alright. Camera issues. I haven't noticed that many, so I wasn't going to bring it up, but yeah, apparently they do exist, as clearly evident. Alright. Anyways, yeah, this is a horrible spot. Who thought this was a good idea for a camera spot? Jesus Christ. Okay, now, thing is, you can sort of dodge, especially, I'll try and demonstrate here. If you have a large clutter of enemies, you can sort of kite them around while attacking. Here, I love the fact that they do this. It's such a nice little detail that they interact with one another, the enemies, when they're in a horde like that. It's honestly, it's amazing. I love it. But you know, praises aside, we're talking about one of the negative things. You can sort of kite them around, right? Here, you can't really. For example, right there, I would have been able to dodge that. And sometimes, if it's a ranged attack, you can, and if it's a charged up attack like that, you can. Far from the fact that it just sticks you in place and doesn't allow you to move. That's simply not the case. However, occasionally it does stick a little bit more than, not occasionally, but you know, most of the time it's difficult to explain what this entire sticks thing means, but essentially when you attack, you can't really move. Right? There's quite a bit of delay between you attacking and being able to move again. A lot more than in the previously mentioned titles, right? So, the reason this is important is it sort of makes the combat a little bit more monotonous, a little bit less under your control, right? Because you click and then you just wait for a thing to play out. Now, sure enough, you wait, I don't know, a quarter of a second or whatever, but when it's a quarter of a second compared to a tenth of a second of a different title, it gets you start to notice stuff like that, especially if you're really into games like these and you play them quite often. Then that gets noticeable, and it gets in the way a little bit. But it's not a big deal. It's not like a major detriment. It's not going to stop me from enjoying the game, which I so certainly am doing. Now, what about the enemy variety? Well, I've sort of touched on this already. I love it. I absolutely love it. Not only is there a ton of enemy variety from, I mean, it's Warhammer. Of course, there's there's tons of enemy variety. There's all sorts of nasty creatures and monsters that you can fight, and you're primarily fighting chaos. Again, Beastmen sort of falling under that category as well, kind of. And Chaos has all sorts of demons and monsters and horrors, as we all know, so really, it's phenomenal. Now, there you go. Finish the quest, thank you very much. Now, they also interact with one another, as we've seen previously. For example, you'll see that those little imp-type things, basically, Collector's Guild is a guild that collects, sorts, categorizes all kinds of items, yada yada yada. Alright, I'm going to give you everything. I hope you enjoy it. Apart from this, because I can actually use this. Yeah, there you go. Buy. No, I can't. Huh, interesting. Alright, let's sell that as well then. We don't need it. Where was I going with this? Ah, yes. Where was I going with this? I am losing my mind. I am absolutely losing my mind in the midst of all the loot and the glory that is this. Alright, yeah, they do interact with each other, as we've seen from... Oh, we can play an emote. No? Shame. Alright. They do interact with one another. They bunch up into a single enemy, as we've seen those little imps, and you get more examples of that later down the line as well. And that's very cool. So, the game also does this, though very, very rarely. I wish they did this more often. They play around with perspective, which is not something I saw ever in Grim Dawn or Diablo, I think. Not really, you know, it's very rare. I would have loved to have a few levels where I fight like this. It feels a lot more like a third-person game right now, doesn't it? I mean, look at this. It's still the same, you know, they just tilt the camera downwards, but it's refreshing. It's bloody awesome. I'd be perfectly okay if this is just, you know, thrown in to spice things up a little bit occasionally, like every few quests you get an area where you need to fight someone like this, or a boss that you need to fight like this. I think that'd be great. I really do. They don't do it very often, though. At least from what I've seen so far, I'm nowhere near completing the game on any of my characters, or the whole 2 of them that I have. But yeah, I'm nowhere near completing the game or anything. But I do wish that they did this a little bit more often. At any rate, though, am I supposed to put it down here? Alright, the minimap's a little bit wonky. Whatever. Right, there we go. Also, and this I don't like this. I really don't. I'm trying to sort of present a balanced view of it. Issue is, I just really don't like it, and I don't need to present a balanced view, of course. I'm under no obligation to do so, but I don't really like this from a personal perspective, right? Maybe you will, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy, but the game doesn't have potions or consumables of any variety. Pretty much the only loot you're going to get is gear, which is fine, it's enough, but I think the game would have done good if it introduced potions as well. Potions for energy, potions for health, the standard, you know, ARPG deal. It would have added to the complexity of the game a little bit, and, you know, a salesman to buy said potions from, I think, would have been helpful as well. I think that would have improved the game on the whole, adding some complexity to it, and I would have enjoyed that, personally, I think. You never know until you try and all that, but I think that generally would have improved the game. As it is, you have one potion that you can use however many times you like, however, the deal is there's a cooldown on it. So, yeah. And you don't really, as far as I know, the potion scales with you. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you unlock it later down the line, but, you know. Still, I think a traditional potions system would have been better. At any rate, though, there is a little bit more. I wish I hadn't started this timed quest, because now I need to go and rescue all sorts of prisoners and stuff like that, and it's... Actually, why am I fighting? Got prisoners to rescue. Let's not fight. Let's aggro a whole bunch of these, and then we'll fight them all at once. Yeah, it's a genius idea. And just run through them all and... Oh god. Okay, in retrospect, might not have been the greatest idea. No, I'm just kidding, it was a great idea. I don't know, I'm starting to doubt the brilliance of my idea. Maybe you can get away with this on lower difficulties. This is very hard. This is hard, not very hard. Yeah. It's telling me to use a potion. I'll use it eventually, don't worry about it. Well, we've certainly added excitement to a relatively non-exciting area. Okay. But, you know, is the complexity sort of shines here, the complexity, the lack thereof, really, sort of shines here, in a way, because I didn't survive this because of my superior skills or whatever. God knows I don't have those. I sort of survived because I kited around a little bit, which is a fairly basic thing to do in these games, and that's about it, right? I mean, that really is about it. I sort of kited them around, and I've mashed buttons. In another game, I wouldn't have survived that unless I knew the proper combination of skills to use, and so on and so forth. You know, again, played a ton of Grim Dawn recently. Brings me back to that, where I've cleared a area like 6 or 7 levels higher than me, because I had a proper set of moves that I would do, and then I leveled up my character properly, and had a good build, and had good gear, and so on and so forth, and was pretty damn skilled at fighting that particular kind of enemy that was there, and had some specialization against that kind of enemy, and so on and so forth. You know, here it's more along the lines of, it's not that much up to you, but at any rate, speaking of skills, that's I think the final important part. We need to talk about combat, and then we can wrap the video up with whether I recommend it or not, or the game that being. So, skills don't really exist. Leveling up doesn't. Well, it exists, but yeah. Here's the thing, you don't really choose your skills. Yeah. That's bad. That's bad. Along with, you know, a few other things that I mentioned that really deter from my enjoyment from this game. Not leveling up, not having a skill tree to pick skills from is just not good. We could say screw this quest. I kind of don't want to, though. Because I want to pause and show you the skills, but I can't. So I'll do that when I finish the quest. This is why you record stuff like this out of different segments, right? So you show gameplay at one, and then skip to another part where you can demonstrate what you need, and so on and so forth. But hey, that requires a professional, which I certainly am not, apparently. Good timing, game, thank you. I was going to say, it's not like the game levels everything up for you and you don't have a choice. Does this pause the game when I do this? No, it doesn't. Alright. Sod. Okay, well, we know there's 3 of them over there. Sod fighting. Let's go. There's a terrible area to fight as well. Charge. Okay. Hit. Charge through. There you go. Oh god, that's a Nurgle monster thing. Oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Alright. Oh, that has a lot of HP. Alright. That has a lot of HP. Well then, this was going to be a simple demonstration of the skill system in the game. So I guess I'll just talk about it and show you pictures of it in a second if I kill all of this. Essentially, the game has a set amount of skill, a set number, or yes, a predetermined set of skills which you unlock as you level up. you don't get to pick which skill that is, very much like Diablo, right? And again, I didn't like this in Diablo, I don't like it here. It's essentially, it's oversimplifying a game that doesn't necessarily need to be oversimplified. However, you do have some manner of choice in how you build your character. That is, you pick up which skill, you choose which skill you're going to improve. So right now, this is the stupidest idea I've had all day. You pick which skill you're going to improve from here. That's status, that's not there, it's other place, but I'm kind of busy. Alright. See, it would have been really cool to fight this thing in the other perspective from the throne room. I think. Well, maybe if they made it a little bit bigger and then have me fight it, would have been really cool. But at any rate, too late for that, I suppose. Okay, let's. You're not so tough without all your friends helping you, but I don't have that much damage output. Alright, get out of here. We need to rescue 3 more. Okay. Oh, they keep on coming. No rest for the wicked. Okay. I think we can... I was going to say, I think we can rest here for a second, let them hit me, and we'll take a look at the skills. But no, apparently they're going to spawn another horde of Chaos Worshippers right on top of my head. Eventually, there we go. So, take a look at this thing. Skills, there you go. You pick which one you want to upgrade. Passives, God skills, advanced skills. Yeah. They're all unlocked initially. Look. There's a decent number of them, is the thing. There really, really is. But, I don't like this all that much, is kind of the main issue here. I don't like it all that much because essentially what you do is you just pick the ones you want. Again, it's very much like Diablo. Here are the skills, you pick X number of them, Bob's your uncle, that's it, right? I don't like that much. I much prefer the traditional system where you have skill points and you pick what you want out of those things and that's it, right? Here, it's just, I don't know, it's trying to be a mix between both, kind of, you know, it's trying to be a mix between not picking any of your skills and just upgrading them, and picking each and every custom skill that you want. And it's sort of, it does that, but meh, right? So instead of, let's say, me putting 7 points into this, I can upgrade it once, right? And there's 3 stages of each and every one of these skills. For one playthrough, that's perfectly fine, right? It doesn't... When you play the game again, though... Yeah. And replayability is one of the key, most important things when it comes to games like these. And, you know, here it just ruins a lot of the replayability, because the next character you're going to play is going to be pretty much exactly the same as this one, leaving you with 4 playthroughs, and then you're done. And you can increase the difficulty, but it's not going to add that much to the experience. So, really, the advantage of having a large skill tree system where you pick all your skills is replayability. And there's also, a lot more importantly, is a feeling of customness. My character, this character, the one I've created, is unlike any of the other characters in the roster that I have. And, you know, God knows if you really like an ARPG, you create multiple characters. And, you know, then you get those really cool little systems where you can trade items between characters and all that. It's great, you know. It's a great idea for a video game, whoever thought of it initially, but here it's sort of undermined by this. However, again, for a playthrough or two, this is not a problem if you pick a different character. But more than that, you know. But then again, you could also argue, it's like, well, who's going to play, you know, more than 4 playthroughs? That's not that many people. Fair enough. It does, again, detract from the value of the game, and it's also, more important than that, is the feeling of sort of customness of the character. You design it to fit your own sort of playstyle and vision of the character. But, you know, what are you going to do about it, I suppose, right? At any rate, that's about it, I think, as far as the basics of the game is, my first impressions of it are concerned. More of a preview again, but not that that really matters all that much. Ultimately, do I recommend it? Yeah, I do. It's a little bit pricey for, well, for all the sort of nitpicks and bad things that I've talked about. However, I do really like the game. It's really fun. If you can get a few people to play it with, I think that'd be great, because it does have up to 4 people multiplayer. You know, multiplayer makes pretty much everything. Co-op multiplayer pretty much makes everything better. So if you can find people to play this game with, that'd be awesome. I think you would enjoy it quite a bit. Speaking of flashy abilities, there's one. Quite like that one, actually. Alright, die, please. Thank you very much. Geronimo! Oh, it's such a dwarf thing to do. Alright, I love how fitting the abilities are as well. Like I said, some of them not that flashy. Would have preferred them to be a little bit more of a different hue, if you will. But this one doesn't suffer from that. This one doesn't suffer from that problem. Oh, that's so cool. Alright, ooh, look at that Nurgle. Those are Nurgle demons, right? What are they called? I forget. I forgot what those demons are called. Anyways, does the game have like a glossary of some sort where you can look things up? This corner is currently locked. What is this? I guess we'll find out. Journal, status, skills, and inventory. No, it doesn't. Oh, that'd be an interesting thing to see. Maybe there's a wiki page available for it. Like different types of enemies and the lore for them. I think it would be cool to get people into Warhammer. Honestly, there's an idea. If anyone's listening, you can have that one for free. I think that'd be relatively cool. All right, whatever though. Not the most important thing in the world. It's in the Warhammer universe, which makes it infinitely better than anything that's not in the Warhammer universe. I'm partially joking, but yeah, it's really cool to see a game in Warhammer Fantasy. We don't have that many of them, though I'd say that. The sort of hack and slash games have been coming out for Warhammer Fantasy, Vermintide being a prime example, and a couple of others as well. So, yeah, like I said, it's pretty cool to see. I do recommend it. Ultimately, it is a little bit simplistic, but I think it's fun nonetheless. And I think it's also not a thing that should be easily disregarded. The fact that you're mostly playing this for the combat and the gameplay, but there is also a lot to see from the Warhammer world as well to experience. The art style, the enemies, the stuff like that, the story as well, which is relatively okay. So yeah, there's a lot to it. Is my point. Even if there are, I'm not paying attention. I'm like it's difficult to talk and play at the same time. I'll pay to revive because more fragments or gold house by gold. Right, here we go. Hi. You bastards killed me. I do not appreciate that one bit. Oh, wow, this is actually kind of difficult. Oh, wow, okay. I have grossly underestimated the enemies here. Huh. That's a bit of a difficulty spike. Okay, I'll pay 4 fragments this time around, and then we'll see. But at any rate, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I think this will be everything for this video. My name is Juggernaut. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed and want to stay tuned for the rest of the content that we produce on this channel. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, I am playing a Crusader Kings 2 mod called Game of Thrones, and have a Let's Play on that going on the channel right now, as well as more first impressions of various titles. And well, if you're seeing this couple of weeks or whatever after it's been uploaded, then probably some other Let's Play as well. But at any rate, that's all from me for this video. Thank you very much for watching once again. Please do remember to have fun, take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.